Rapper Sean Diddy Combs' list of accusers now includes an Oklahoma woman. In a brand new lawsuit, she claims she was lured to one of his parties in 2006.
There she says Diddy her.
The name Diddy has become almost similar to controversy, and it seems like every day there's a new twist in his never-ending saga. Whether it's whispers of parties, shocking lawsuits, or the latest bombshells from behind prison walls, this story keeps changing, and just when we thought the drama surrounding Diddy couldn't get any wilder, here comes another wave of jaw-dropping accusations, this time straight from prison. And 3 individuals have stepped forward, each with disturbing claims about their experiences involving Diddy. From shocking encounters at exclusive parties to the events in private settings, these accounts paint a troubling picture of power, manipulation, and the new allegations are tied to patterns of behavior that have been whispered about for years, patterns involving acts and the alleged use of power to silence victims. One man alleges an incident at a 2020 Hamptons party, claiming he was handed a drink that left him fading in and out of consciousness before being by Diddy and others. Another describes a similar scenario from a nightclub encounter in 2019 where he was given a spiked drink only to wake up in a horrifying situation. The third story involves a former employee who claims he was taken advantage of during what was supposed to be a professional meeting, complete with chilling threats to keep quiet. These revelations aren't just adding fuel to the fire, they're part of a growing pattern that's impossible to ignore. Diddy's reputation has already been under fire due to earlier lawsuits and investigations, but this latest chapter is unlike anything we've seen before. The question now is, how deep does this go?
So why did you believe in these cases, and why didn't you believe in others that you were presented with?
Well, the thing with a abuser, a sexual abuser, is they follow a pattern. They fall to type, and you become very clear on what that pattern is, particularly a serial. And these cases were all identical in the facts, identical in the story. It was beginning, middle, conclusion.
They know each other?
Boom. None of them knew each other.
Did you have them meet?
No. One was by the other ones were not. And they were going there. The client was by for Diddy. Diddy owed him money for doing errands for him and being his step and fetch, for lack of a better word. And I think it was a power move. It was a clear power move because this guy had the nerve to come to him and say, "You owe me money." And so Diddy said, "Come on to the Intercontinental Hotel." He gives him the drink, knocks him out, sodomizes him. And I won't use the term that my client used, but he said he tried to turn me into his B word. And I think it was a clear power move on each and every occasion. I think the ones that took place in the Park Hyatt, that wasn't partying. My client met him at a nightclub in the city here with a music producer. He didn't think he was getting into that. The man who was in the Hamptons, he thought he was going to a white party. Who wouldn't want to go to a white party? I would have gone to a white party back in the day. I wouldn't go now.
Our first story takes us back to 2020, where a luxurious Hamptons party turned into a nightmare for one man. This man recalls being invited to what was supposed to be an exclusive, high-class event hosted by Diddy himself. The setting was everything you'd expect: a lavish mansion, a list guests, and endless luxury. But under the glamour was something far darker. According to the accuser, he was offered a drink by someone in Diddy's circle. At first, it seemed like a harmless gesture, but soon after taking a few sips, things took a terrifying turn. He described feeling strange, as though his body was shutting down, and then began fading in and out of consciousness. While his memory of the night is fragmented, he alleges that during these moments of vulnerability, he was not just by one individual, but by multiple people, including Diddy. What makes this even more horrifying is the power dynamics at play. This wasn't just a random encounter. This was a situation where Diddy, one of the most influential figures in the entertainment world, allegedly misused his position to intimidate and silence his victim. The accuser claims that threats were made to ensure he didn't speak out, leaving him trapped in fear for years. It takes immense bravery to come forward, especially for men in situations like these. Society often downplays male victims of assault, making it even harder for them to find the courage to tell their stories. This man's decision to break his silence sheds light on an issue that's not just about Diddy, but about the broader struggles male survivors face in being heard and believed. But if you thought that was shocking, wait until you hear what another man revealed about a nightclub meeting with Diddy in 2019. The second accuser's story begins in a popular New York nightclub where he met Diddy for the first time. What started started as a normal night out quickly into something far more sinister. The man says Diddy invited him to an after party at his private residence, a move that seemed exciting at the time. Once there, the accuser claims he was handed a drink, and just like in the first story, things went downhill from there. The drink, he alleges, was spiked. He recalls feeling disoriented before blacking out completely. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in an extremely vulnerable situation. According to his account, Diddy took advantage of him while he was incapacitated. As if the trauma of the assault wasn't enough, the accuser alleges that Diddy handed him $2,500 the following morning. Calling it a gift, this hush money was allegedly meant to keep him from speaking out, but instead of silence, it added another layer of control and manipulation. And what stands out in this case is the chilling consistency in the allegations. Both accusers described similar methods: spiked drinks, loss of consciousness, and that happened when they were unable to defend themselves. This pattern points to something calculated, raising questions about how many other potential victims might still be out there. And as if the pattern couldn't get clearer, a third man has come forward with a similar story. This accuser's account begins not in a party or nightclub, but in a professional business meeting. He was employed under Diddy's entertainment empire, working hard to make a name for himself in the competitive industry. According to him, the meeting took place in 2018 at a high-end hotel where Diddy often conducted private discussions. The man recalls that the meeting started off as expected, discussing business matters in detail. But at some point, he says Diddy offered him a drink. It seemed harmless enough at first, especially in a professional setting. But soon after consuming it, he began to feel extremely unwell. His memory became fuzzy, and he started slipping in and out of consciousness. When he finally regained awareness, he said he was in a horrifying situation. The accuser alleges that Diddy took advantage of him while he was incapacitated, using the same pattern described by the other two men. But what stands out most is what happened afterward. The man claims that Diddy mocked him as he tried to process what had happened, allegedly saying, "No one would believe you anyway." The accuser also recalls Diddy making threats about his career, suggesting that any attempt to report the incident would ruin his reputation in the industry. But for someone trying to establish a foothold in a highly competitive field, these words weren't just discouraging, they were paralyzing. This incident highlights not only the alleged behavior, but also the layers of manipulation and control used to silence victims. The courage it took for this man to finally come forward, knowing the risks to his career and personal life, cannot be ignored. But what connects these accounts is a clear and disturbing pattern: the use of drinks, the victims being rendered unconscious, and happening while they were defenseless. These aren't isolated events, they paint a picture of a systematic approach. One of the most chilling aspects of these allegations is the suggestion that Diddy wasn't working alone. In at least two of the accounts, victims mentioned the involvement of associates who either used the situations or stood by silently. Then there's the issue of the recordings. Multiple victims have hinted that their incidents were captured on video. These alleged cover-ups are just as alarming as the acts themselves. Victims have described being handed hush money or threatened into silence, creating a climate where speaking out seemed impossible. This environment not only protected the alleged perpetrator, but also perpetuated the cycle of.
It's difficult, but scary at the same time. But I do know that I do want my story to be told.
3 new male accusers now say Sean Diddy Combs them, according to civil lawsuits filed today in New York. The lawsuits, filed anonymously, allege a pattern of conduct similar to what other Combs accusers have alleged, saying that Combs would invite them for a meeting, they would have a drink, get woozy, and then wake up to Combs them.
The allegations against Diddy have ignited a firestorm in Hollywood, with whispers growing louder about his alleged behavior over the years. While these recent accusations focus on 3 individuals, insiders have hinted at a history of troubling behavior that many people in the industry allegedly knew about but chose to ignore. Sources have talked for years that Diddy's lavish parties weren't just about music and networking, they were about power and control. Several unnamed sources have come forward to claim they witnessed questionable incidents involving other celebrities at these events. But some folks even suggest that Diddy's influence may have extended beyond the music music industry, pulling strings in Hollywood circles to keep certain stories from surfacing. These whispers are now sparking outrage among the public. Social media has been flooded with comments expressing support for the victims and demanding justice. Some users have pointed out the courage it takes for men to come forward with such accusations, especially in a society where male victims often face additional stigma, and others are using this moment to highlight the systemic issues in Hollywood, where power imbalances and exploitation have long gone unchecked. As a person commented saying, "The fact that these stories keep coming out shows how deep the problem really is. Hollywood has to stop protecting these individuals." Another one added, "It takes so much courage for these men to speak out. I hope they get the justice they deserve, and I hope this opens the door for others to come forward, of course." Diddy's legal team isn't staying silent, but their denials are being met with increasing backlash.
A new lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs by 3 male accusers, including a former employee, claims the music mogul raped them. The new accusers say between 2019 and 2022, Combs plied them with spiked alcoholic drinks and Combs' attorneys say the new accusers are lying. Meantime, a federal judge granted Combs access to a laptop computer so he can review evidence in his case. Combs can only access the laptop in a visiting room or conference room. He cannot take or store notes on it, and the laptop will have no other functions.
In response to these allegations, Diddy's legal team has issued strong denials. In official statements, his lawyers have described the accusations as false, baseless, and part of an orchestrated effort to damage his reputation. They've emphasized Diddy's charitable contributions, his career achievements, and his supposed commitment to uplifting others in the industry. But public reactions to these statements have been less than forgiving. Many folks are questioning the timing and consistency of the denials, especially given the evidence and the eerie similarities between the victims' accounts. Some people have even pointed out that Diddy's lawyers have yet to address specific details in the allegations, focusing instead on broad denials and character defenses. These growing doubts have also fueled Hollywood's history of enabling problematic behavior. Critics argue that the industry has long relied on powerful legal teams to bury scandals, often at the expense of justice for victims. But Diddy's case might just be the tip of the iceberg. It has reopened conversations about the culture of silence that enables abuse in the entertainment world. The power dynamics, the hush money, and the influence used to suppress victims' voices aren't new, but they're becoming harder to ignore. This moment is reminiscent of the early days of the Me Too movement, where untouchable figures were finally held accountable. Speculation is growing about who else might be implicated as more people find the courage to speak out. What's clear is that the industry needs systemic change. Calls for better protections for victims, stricter regulations around allegations, and more transparency in handling such cases are growing louder. This isn't just about one man, it's about dismantling a culture that has allowed to flourish unchecked for decades. As we await the next chapter in this saga, one thing is clear: 2024 will go down in history as the year Diddy's empire crumbled. But what do you guys think about these allegations? Do you believe this marks a turning point for Hollywood's culture of silence? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.